Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode number 241 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Go to www.fdfineartsassociation.org to find out more. The Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association believes that the art should be accessible to everyone, and so do we. So be sure to check out their community calendar and also their podcast that comes out once a month called FDT. This episode, I'm sitting down with Owen Obrien. It's super fun to sit down and talk with him. I haven't talked to him in a while, and we've got a lot of catching up to do. This episode's really fun. We talk about, basically looking back at the different musical preferences and playing styles that we've gone through, and maybe some regrets we might have from our past till now, or like just the different perception we have on, or just like how we feel or look at different types of music and things like that. We talk about some of that kind of stuff. We also talk about his Berklee tryout. I'm pretty sure, I did see something online about, he kind of talked about it a little bit, but we kind of go a little bit in depth about this. And the fun thing was, this was before he made like a post online, and I was like, just really kind of grilling him on all the stuff that I kind of felt like asking him about. So I hope you guys, enjoy this episode. He kind of talks about his Berklee tryout and what happened and how he feels about it, so that's kind of cool to hear that from him, and for those that don't know, just check the episode out. You'll find out more. This is episode number 241 with Owen Obrien.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Sitting down with Owen Obrien, the man. What's up?
I'm just hanging out, dude.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on the podcast. It's actually been a while since we've hung out at all. So this is pretty cool.
I think I was like 16 or 17, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I remember. Let's see. I actually have it right here. It was episode 142, and it was June 3rd of 2021.
Oh wow. Yeah. So that was like 4 years ago? It sounds about right, actually.
Yeah, about 100 episodes back, but that's pretty wild, actually.
That's insane. Like a century of Audible Farm is good.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. When you first started playing music, you go to the jam nights and things like that, and I remember just like hanging out with you and Owen needs to learn how to drive a car. All right, drive my car around, I guess, whatever. It's got 100 and some odd thousand miles at that point on it. If it gets wrecked, it's not a huge deal.
Oh my God, yeah.
We'd carpool to shows together and things like that, and that was a fun time. You brought bass guitars over here, and we took them apart, and then it's like, oh, these parts won't fit in here. Let's put the old parts back in here. There was a couple of those that happened and things like that.
And then you were like, hey, let's just do a podcast after, and then we did. Might
as well, yeah. So let's talk about, if anybody wants to know, let's just go like broad stroke.
Yeah.
You started playing music pretty young. If I recall right, did you say you played a lot of Mudvayne like growing up and stuff like that?
So I started getting into like metal music when I first started playing bass, just because like I just wanted to play like sick riffs. That's all I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be musically like inclined at all. I just wanted to be sick.
Just stank facing the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I like started playing like Disturbed. I bought like the coolest bass.
I wrote Disturbed.
You wrote Disturbed. You remember that? That's insane.
That's hilarious.
I was obsessed with that band, and I looked online for like the most metal bass I could find. It was like an Ibanez, like it was like dark red, and I put blue strings on it. And it was sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, colored bass string.
Exactly. So yeah, I just started listening to like kind of like new metal stuff, like Korn and Disturbed and Slipknot and whatnot.
Dude, that's like a bassist haven though. Like
it
some
is.
of that is like the coolest stuff ever.
Absolutely, dude.
It makes me think like Mudvayne would be the one I'd point at. They were a lot of like Berber, like we all know the Berber ding like joke or like the meme that we've all seen a million times.
There's more to the band than Berber Ding, actually.
Yeah, for sure. They were actually pretty good. They were a band I didn't give a whole lot of. Like at first they had like the face paint and stuff, and like everyone's like, oh, they're trying to be Slipknot, and I was just like, no. I barely like Slipknot. I really don't like these guys. And then after a while, it's like, oh, they don't have face paint on anymore. It's like, what is this, like the Kiss when they took the face paint off? What are we talking about? And then you listen to them, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good.
It was cool. Like their first album was like super progressive and almost like Tool like, but even more like complex, I think.
Oh, really?
The bass lines were just disgusting. I think that was like the first band I listened to that was like complex with bass lines and that actually challenged me a little bit.
Oh yeah. So I was thinking like to myself, like, this is gonna sound weird, but like metal music's not a bad place to start, but I think a lot of people like look down on new metal. They're like, this is easy, it's junk or whatever. But now that you're like mentioning like how complex it actually is, because the bass parts in those are a lot of times those are the guys carrying a lot of the weight.
Exactly.
So like you actually didn't choose bad bands to start listening to and playing their stuff.
Yeah, I definitely tortured my my stepdad like every day. Like it was really bad because my grandpa, he gave me like this massive like I think it was like a Gallien-Kruger speaker and a head with it, and I would just play these metal songs at like full volume, you know, and I'd be just thumping away in my room trying to learn these songs, and I had no like end goal. I was just like, I want to do this.
Yeah, I want to be able to. I'm just basement rocking. I always called it. Yeah,
and I think at the time I was playing in like a church band. That was like my first.
So it's like two completely different things.
I was playing at like drop A, like playing on worship songs, and I'd be like, you know, whenever there was an A like note, I'd just play the low one, and I'd be like, this is sick, guys, right? And I'd be looking around, and they're like, no,
it's not.
You have to stop.
That's hilarious. So one thing I like to look at though is like, because I feel like I was in the same era. Like I wanted to play like sick riffs. I just wanted to play like cool stuff, or the things that I thought were like the neatest stuff, or what, you know, I love watching these guys on TV. I want to do what they're doing. So I went into that mode like growing up, you know, but like try and put yourself back into that mode and think about like what you thought about a lot of the music that we're all playing today.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how like, I think, I'm not going to say this is how you were, but like me, I would just like turn my nose up at it. Like this is easy stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
no, or bored. We're kind of bored with
it. It's boring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, but then you sit and you look at it and like, when you actually try and like match the licks that are going on, you're like, oh, this is actually kind of hard.
Yeah.
You know, like these country dudes are doing some wild stuff.
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah. Like, Bromley King's actually kind of good at guitar. Like, what?
wait, he's shredding?
Yeah, what?
Holy cow, he's shredding. You know, and that's the stuff where it's like, do you think, like, what's this dichotomy you have? Do you ever, like, look back and just be like, man, I didn't know what was good for me or something?
I think of that all the time. I look back, I don't listen to metal at all, really, anymore. So, like, when I look back at myself, I'm like, man, I was super narrow-minded, and I didn't want to listen to anything else. And then, like, I think I started listening to new music and, like, crossing that bridge when I saw the Chris Carr band play.
Yeah.
That's how I got introduced to, like, 70s music. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got really into it pretty quick. And I was like, this is cool.
That's wild. That's like music from, like, 40 or 50 years earlier.
Yeah,
you know?
So different to what I was listening to.
Completely different.
You know? Like, listening to things like Neil Young and America and like the Eagles and stuff. It took me a while to get into it and appreciate it, but those guys helped out a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember like being younger. Like I played guitar up, you know, teenage years, like 16ish to like 18 or 19. Didn't really play much, but I remember somewhere in like early 20s going to seeing Chris Carr band and just being like, holy crap, these guys are good. Like,
yeah, they're super tight. Yeah, great sound.
And it's one of those things where I think it just opens up your mind where you're just like, wait, I think I've heard this song like on the radio once, you know, or whatever. You start like looking into it and you're like, this is awesome, you know? And I think I was like lucky around here because like the radio station around here basically played like 50s and 60s songs for a while, and then it just played like classic rock from the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
And so like I got exposed to a lot of that stuff, like at least through the radio from the station here in town. But it's just like I sometimes look back at myself and think like I did not know what I should have been doing this whole time, you know, or like by not being open, I guess, like, you know, mentally to this. And for some reason I was writing all this stuff down. I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if Owen went through this at all, because you kind of, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I don't know. I feel like that's this weird thing about metal music though too, is because every metal band is just like, you think of like, oh, Metallica or like whatever. It's like, oh, they're just shredding. The whole time they're just shredding. And you're like, that's proficiency right there. And it's like,
yeah, proficiency, but maybe not like ideal for getting hired all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about like the economy of notes.
Yeah, the economy of notes. That should be a book immediately.
I don't know if it might be. I bet Victor Wooten's already done a TED talk on it, And that's like other things where you start to like look into it. Like who was the first? I bet it was Victor Wooten, but who was the first? Like I call them like virtuosos. Those guys that are so good, it's like you could do anything with any band ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was the first guy you got into?
Probably, I think it was Victor Wooten actually.
Yeah.
I guess like Les Claypool was cool.
Yep.
I was super obsessed with Primus for a long time, but then I found out that like playing like Les Claypool on a normal song is just not the move at all. Like, like if I'm playing if I'm like slapping and strumming bass on a song like "Can't You See," it's just not good, and it's not going to sound very good. So I quickly kind of forced myself to stop and take a break. And then I think I got in the Victor kind of after that, like watching him do like his solo stuff. Like "The Lesson" is one of his big songs, and he just does some crazy melodic stuff alone on his bass, which I had never seen like before that.
Oh yeah, so somebody's basically playing the whole song
on bass,
all the parts on just a bass.
Yeah, he's like tap, bass notes with this hand, melodic notes with this hand, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can do this ever.
How do you cross the bridge then? Because you can do some of that stuff now. You are. I mean, I'm not trying to be like woo woo about this, but you're very talented. So I don't know if it's like you can hear stuff or see stuff, and you're like, oh, I just learned that. But like, how do you cross the bridge then when you like? Because you just said like, I don't know if I can do that. It's like you can do some of that stuff though.
I think my ADHD helps. It's like, man, I want to sound like this a little bit, and I'm not going to stop until I can at least play parts of this effectively. And at that time I was doing some solo shows too, like with bass, or I would have like a drummer with me. I had did a few gigs with Fernando Salazar, and he was incredible drummer. Really miss that guy. I think he's living in Kansas now.
Yeah, Kansas City or something like that. Yep.
He was awesome. Really fun to play with.
Yeah, he could like just pick up on anything. Like the jazzier the better. I feel like he was a good jazz drummer.
So good. Way beyond my skill level. And that's what made it really easy to kind of experiment with the Victor Wooten stuff with him, because he could just provide a solid foundation. And man, it was just so much fun playing with him. And then I did a gig or two with Stephanie McField. She played drums, and she's a lot more like pocket oriented, I would say. But she still laid down, like we rehearsed a lot together, and she wasn't really used to playing, I guess, complex like funk stuff like that.
Yeah, I always think about that stuff. It's like, well, you're keeping time by stomping the hi-hat. And the snare actually has nothing to do with keeping time. And that's what like messes me up so bad with jazz music. It's so they'll do that stuff where sometimes it's like, well, we're keeping time with the ride now. And
very little kick drum actually. Like, a lot of like a lot of ride cymbal, and the snare is like on the offbeat sometimes. It's weird.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's like it's a completely different gear for a drummer to like try to snap into. Especially, I'm assuming did she play in the church band with you?
Yeah, she was the drummer for the
worship band.
Yeah, it was the Point Church is what it was called.
Okay.
Not the same church anymore, but I learned a lot playing with it. Like my grandpa played with me in that.
Oh, cool.
Like formation there. And then Sidney McField was like the leader of it, and I think he just put out like an album.
Yeah, he just recorded some songs.
Or maybe just a few songs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know for a fact it's at least a couple songs.
Yeah,
and one was with Dave Schmieder.
Yeah, no, dude, that guy's blowing up, isn't he?
Every podcast he gets mentioned.
I see that guy everywhere now, and it's awesome. Like he's super clean.
I love it. It's like the perfect story. It's like played music, had a family, was just like, all right, I need to tend to this family stuff. And then when all of his kids and everybody's grown up, it's just like, how about I play some music again? And it's like
just become a legend because I can do that. Yeah,
out of nowhere. And there's funny because like all the guys that are like his age, they're like, yeah, we all saw his band play 1 billion times, and it's and we don't know him though because
I just discovered him at one of the Thursday jam nights. I don't remember which one it was, but I was playing bass. I think I was hosting it maybe. And I saw this guy playing pedal steel, and I'm like, wow, this guy's like really cool. Like he's making really cool sounds right now.
Yeah. I saw a pedal steel go up for sale recently, and it was not like overly expensive. And I was like, I was going to message Dave and just be like, hey, is this any good? Because I kind of want to buy one just because of you, and I don't know why. Or like I started making the joke where like I play regular guitar in Jesse's band, and Dave plays pedal steel guitar. Because like if Dave's playing the pedal steel guitar, I just have to call mine regular guitar now. Like, cause you know.
Well, yeah, I mean that literally is what it is. Yeah. I think your guys' formation really works. I've only seen videos and stuff, but having a pedal steel player and a regular, as you would say, guitar player, regular lead player, yeah. I think it contrasts really well together because it's different tonalities, and you can't really get a electric guitar sound necessarily on a pedal steel, and vice versa. You know,
you have there's tips and tricks and things. You can get B benders and blah blah blah.
And I don't know like what I'm talking about. So like,
no,
when it comes to pedal steel, really, but they're pretty different. You know?
Yeah, that's basically what I think about it too. It's like every time I feel like I have to have him explain to me what he's doing when he's playing stuff, you know. But it's like, so what are you doing here? It's like, well, it's all in open disc, and then you just put it here, so it's that chord, and then you can bend into them with these things, and that's what this pedal does. And it's like, okay, like, you know, eventually I'm just like,
they use their feet too.
Yeah,
like I don't even know what that's for.
And
like,
their knees going side to side.
Yeah,
too. There's like
it's like organ like stuff.
Billion, yeah. There's like a billion things going down in there. That's why like pedal steel players aren't standing up like running around with their pedal steels because they can't. They gotta stomp on them and do things because they're crazy,
very crazy, very very talented and multi taskable. That's not a word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes,
they're like doing two things at once all the time, and
yeah.
That's why I'm a bass player, because I don't want to do that. I just want to chill, you know.
So what got you interested? Because last time you were on here, you were primarily a bass player. You have sat in on jam nights and played guitar at that point in time, but you weren't so much a guitar player.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Nowadays, I would basically call you both.
Yeah, I've picked up a guitar about 2 years ago. I just wanted to get more gigs, and everyone was doing the acoustic thing, and I was getting less gigs just on bass, so I was like, I'm just gonna practice every day. And at the time I didn't have a full-time job either. I was living with some roommates of mine, a buddy named Mason, and then Kai from the Crave tattoo shop, which she's blown up recently, but and they were just really really nice to me, and very they were just willing to let me do my thing there when I was living with them. And so I spent every day practicing guitar. And then eventually I became solid enough at it to where felt like I could gig. And then it just kind of went on from there.
Was the inspiration just to get more gigs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to write more stuff. I wanted to, you know, eventually on bass you get limited to what you can write, you know?
Yeah.
Unless you're Victor Wooten, of course. But
true.
That's like, he's not human. Doesn't count.
Dude, it is really funny when you go to like, you can find certain bands where it's like the bassist writes most of the material, and it's like you can really kind of key in on it after a while. Like, oh, this is their style.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like there's a few of them that are like that. Like Iron Maiden had a handful of songs, like a pile of them that the bassist wrote, and it's like, oh, you can tell that he's really just kind of leaning into this like E minor thing, or like whatever it happens to be, you know.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
You start to figure out like, oh, well, Thin Lizzy writes a lot of songs in F sharp because it's easy to go down that half step, and it sounds cool when you can go down from the root note. So why would you have the E and whatever?
Yeah, or even if you're in any drop tuning, it makes it way cooler.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't know. There's those kind of things I think about with like the bassist writing music, but again, like I feel like they pigeonhole themselves a lot, where like with a guitar you might be a little more open.
Yeah I feel like a lot of bass players that write, like there's this band called Snarky Puppy, which I'm a huge fan of.
Marvin mentioned them.
Oh, did they?
On their episode. So yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. They're pretty good, you know. Yeah. And Marvin's awesome too.
Yes.
They've played at Byron's a few times, which I'm so mad I didn't get to see them play that one time.
The last time, yeah, I missed it too. I was bummed.
Yeah, killer. Is it a trio? I think it's a jazz trio.
4.
Is it 4?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Bass, guitar, drums, and saxophone.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's freaking sweet.
Their guitar player, actually, he put like a 30-minute video online of like talking about if music school's worth it and if learning certain things is worth it, and a very deep video. And I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, this guy's like really smart.
Yeah.
So
well, there's this weird thing I think about that. I don't want to just like keep sidetracking, but I'm going to write down that we're going to go back to guitar. But yeah, so like going to a music school, like that's something else we're gonna cover here, because I do have that in here as well.
Yeah.
But like the positive side of it is obviously you're going to be like the greatest musician ever.
Yeah.
There are downfalls to it where it's like now you have a bunch of debt. Like that's basically
if you maximize your time there and study. Yeah.
So you could end up being like the best musician, but you might, I don't know. I just feel like there are the positives and there are the negatives. And that is a good video. They also brought up that concept in the episode we did. And they were a little more outspoken on the episode that I did with them. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Anywho, playing guitar. You had mentioned Snarky Puppy.
Yeah.
So let's see. Where were we going with this, though?
I think we were talking about bass players writing
being
music.
limited. Yes.
Limited and how they would go about it. Because that bass player, Michael Leake, is the bass player, and also he writes most of the music. Like he arranges all of it. But he's not like, he's mostly a bass player. Like he's popular for being a bass player, but he plays, piano. He plays enough of other instruments to arrange stuff. He's best probably at bass, but I think it's really important to learn if you want to write music, especially when you have other people with you, or if you have a band that you're trying to compose for. Learning other instruments is really important. Just learning them enough to where you can be confident enough to write certain parts and certain melodies. You don't have to be crazy. I don't think I'm nearly as good of a guitar player as I am a bass player.
Interesting.
But I think I'm good enough at it to write what I want to hear in my head most of the time.
Yeah. God, I was trying to like remember what I was going to go with this, because you said something and it was like, oh, I got a hot take on this, but I don't remember what the hot take was. But yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. I can go somewhere with this. So learning different instruments could also like help you broaden your perspective on the instrument that you are good at.
Oh, for sure.
Or like, let's say you're a bassist. It's like, well, if I learn just how a piano works, it could help me play bass better.
Definitely.
And that was like literally the thing that made me understand how to apply music theory to a guitar.
Yeah, because you're also a pretty good bass player. I've seen you play bass before.
I'm okay.
You're pretty solid, dude.
Yeah, I can keep it in the pocket. I can do tiny bits of things that other people can do, but that's, I don't know.
That's all you need.
Yeah, you can also tell that like what I try and tell myself when I play bass is just to like, don't let anybody know that you're actually a guitarist. You have to find a way to hide your playing in a way that nobody knows you're actually a guitarist.
That's awesome. That's really cool, because like a lot of people that play bass just sometimes when they're mostly a guitar player, you can definitely tell that they're a guitar player playing bass. It's just, you can just tell. It's a technique thing. It's a sound. The way they hit the strings is different. They usually use a pick, which I mean is fine. But I think every time I've heard you play bass, you sound like a bass player, dude.
I try so much.
Great.
I mean, but a lot of that comes from though, like playing music with you for so long, because you're just like, again, when I started playing music with you, when you were in Jesse's band and at jam nights and things like that, you were kind of like figuring out where the Les Paul and the Les Claypool and the Victor Wooten and the Disturbed stuff actually fit into like what we were playing, which was most of the time like country, So like so I'm listening to these like outrageous bass lines that actually fit, that I think fit, and it's like what can I do to try and compete with this or like keep up with this or whatever, and then change pace to like I play music with Clint and Clint Riedel, and then like Brad plays bass with him, and Brad has a very distinct Brad sound on the bass.
Brad is just Brad. Like you can't out Brad.
Yeah, he does exist. So
he does exist.
Yes, they do exist. So I've heard enough of that where it's like I try to emulate this a little bit, but I also have that thing where like my favorite bassists, I'm still stuck in that child mindset of like I want to be a stank facing up here, So like when songs come in like let's say like a key that's really easy to traverse, like I like to think that like E minor, A minor, B minor. They're like some of the easiest
Yeah.
ones to go around in. I think the instrument's set up well for it. And
Definitely,
stuff like
yeah.
that. So like when I get into one of those keys on a song, I'm like, oh, here we go, and I'm gonna start trying to do some. And that's where I like get fearful because I'm like, that's where the guitar thing
Yeah.
starts to come out, and you need to try to like.
No, it's
not.
fine. Sometimes it's cool. Like you were saying when I was playing with you, I did watch a few videos of me like playing bass in there, and I was like, dude, like what am I doing? I'm really thankful for Jesse for giving me so much wiggle room and willing to let me mess around, because I was in a very experimental phase when I was in that band. He gave me so many solos. Now that I think about it, it's like so weird. Like
Yeah.
if you go into a bar to see a country band play and the bass player is taking solos, it's like, okay, this is weird. But
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's something. And you're just like, what's going on here?
but it kind of like whenever you and I traded a solo on a rock song, that was sick. Like
Dude, and nothing against anyone else I've ever played music with.
Yeah.
It was always the smoothest sounding trade-offs.
Yeah,
ever. I
it was
just
awesome.
Like, we vibed well enough, I feel like, playing music where like, dude, this is going to sound so weird. So like, I feel like music is like, if you go join a band, you're like, this person's making noise at this time and this person's making noise at this time. And there's going to be a pocket somewhere where I get to make my noise.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And I feel like I have a very distinct noise pocket in songs. I tag the end of verses and choruses and things like that because there's nobody singing. So it's like, this is where I'm going to do all this.
yeah.
But there's places for you to do that where like I can't add those tags. Well, guess what? That's a perfect place for a bass to add one because you're not going to like take over the song by doing it.
Right.
You know, or you would find ways to like lead into it with something, or like I would play something and it's like, this is usually where he ends playing a solo, but there's a pocket after it. And you would just like tail what I was doing with something that sounded similar. And it's like this, you knew where the noise pockets were,
Yeah.
where I left open most of the time.
I forgot we did that. Yeah, we would just play copy each other's notes. And that
Yeah.
was so funny.
I remember once playing actually at Copperhead in Stratford, and I was playing a solo, and you were like a beat behind me, just like a delay pedal, like through like a couple measures. And I remember playing, and I was just like, wow, like this is crazy. Like it was, I've never laughed and had so much fun on stage as I have like playing with you because of a lot of that. I think it was just like the playing chemistry.
It was so cheesy, but it was meant to happen. It was meant to happen.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, there was one point where I think we played at the ballroom. It was the Monsters Ball, and my stepdad was there, and he's a bass player. He's played with Kirkard a couple times. He used to be in a band with him called Highway 7, and anyway, he was there, and he watched us do that trade thing. I forget what song it was. It was what song do we always end off with? It was that like the finale song, and you would just go crazy.
Basically, Cherry Baby.
It was Cherry. Yeah, that's what it was.
ROCK in the USA, the mashup type deal.
Yeah, in the USA.
Yeah.
That was sick. We would trade solos, and he went up to me. He was like, "Dude, that was so sick."
That is awesome. Yeah, that's so fun.
It was unique. Yeah, it was cool.
I've played enough shows with Taylor Smith, the fiddle player, where we were kind of getting in on like how to do it, you know. But I feel like him and I both have the same noisescape where we're like, this is where we should put the notes.
Yeah.
And it's tough because sometimes we'll overlap.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's crazy is he's good enough to know that like if we're going to overlap, he can actually just like slow down whatever he's going to play, and it sounds like a harmony type thing going like a through passage instead of actually the thing you're supposed to listen to. He's very good at doing that.
He's fantastic, dude. I've played with him a couple times, and he his sense of melody is really good. Really for anything.
Yeah.
For the Iowa scene of music, I think, which is mostly country with some rock in there. I think he could play with anyone, and he plays guitar too. He does.
Yes, he does solo shows,
songwriting.
and sings, and he does write songs. Yep. I mean, we did that talked about that in his episode. He writes a lot more than he lets on, you know. But then again, I usually when I'm playing with him, he's playing fiddle, so he's not actually singing and doing his songs. But
right.
I have played a few songs with him at some open mic nights and things like that. But I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He's got such a mindset for being able to actually add to a song. I'm always blown away where it says like, how are you playing like what's essentially a solo over top of the person singing and it doesn't get in the way?
Yeah, that's
like,
tough.
That is
isn't it?
a freaking talent of some sort that I don't have. So I usually just don't do it.
I don't know if I have that either. I went through a moment like Alex Trevino, like I love that guy. He's like my big brother. He's taught me a ton about playing bass properly with a singer, you know, and that kind of relates to the fiddle thing. It's a little different, but like playing too many licks while the singer is singing can be kind of distracting. Yeah, it distracts from the main part.
Bingo. Yeah.
Maybe a little differently than a fiddle would, because with a fiddle it fits more in that sense.
Yeah, but I also feel like the voice is like so close to like somebody singing. Like
right.
They're right in the same range, kind of. You know.
That is true. So maybe that even helps it.
I don't know. Or I would think it would be harder because it's just like, how are my notes not just overlapping this person's notes, you know?
That's true. That's a cool way to look at it, you know? I mean, I'm not good at the fiddle philosophy or anything, but I think Taylor knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think the best advice I think I've ever gotten was from Alex, like bass-wise. And he's like, okay, pick 2 moments in a song to do something cool, and the rest of it just chill. And unless it's a song that's like pretty heavy and heavy, like bluesy, then just kind of go off and you know, do whatever within reason.
Yeah.
But and I think I've chilled out a lot as a bass player over the past few years. I think I play a lot differently now than I used to.
Yeah. What about as a person? Have you chilled out?
I think so. I've learned a lot over the past few years since I've been on here last time.
Oh man, the cat's in here.
Oh yeah, hi Kitty. Kitty the cat. That's the greatest name.
Yes, I have a cat and its name is Kitty. It's great until like I think about like if somebody wanted to just steal the cat, all they'd have to do is just be like, "Come here, Kitty," and it would just like walk over.
Because that's its name.
That's its name. So, but it's
he or she?
It is a she.
It is a she. Okay.
It is a she.
Don't want to mess that up on camera.
No. So let's kind of talk about like the things that have changed, because we kind of like, you know, broad stroked like how you took up guitar and you wanted to get more gigs because, you know, like you and I were basically musicians for hire. You know, we just find a couple bands, we fit in with them, so let's go ahead and play with them. But then like let's say they're going to do solo shows more often during the winter or something like that. That leads sometimes to like situations where it's like I'm open to taking bookings with like somebody else if they want, you know. So you started taking some bookings with Tank Anthony here and there. So like how did that all start, or like, because that's usually, I would say like that's your full band kind of focus, I would say, over the last couple of years.
That's pretty much been the band. I do have a few side things, but yeah, so that, God, when did that start? I think it was in 2021. I was like around 17 when I joined the band. And
that's wild.
Yeah. I think I was like right around after the last podcast that I was on is when I fully committed to the band. Basically before I joined, they kind of because they had Trevino Alex in the band and he was playing bass like and guitar sometimes, because sometimes they didn't have a full like committed lead guitar player for a long time. They would have like Ronley King fill in on a couple gigs. They would have they had Jeremy fill in on a couple gigs, but they didn't have anything like ready, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not really sure exactly how it went down. Alex hit me up saying that they didn't have a guitar player, so he was going to play guitar and he asked me to play bass. And I think it was some kind of college bar gig, which was hilarious.
Which are fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was not used to it, but it was awesome.
Yeah, that's all. Man, if I was that young playing those types of shows, let's just say things might have gotten out of hand. But kudos to you for like keeping your head on straight. But let's keep going. Yeah, so you start playing like a college bar show with them.
It was me. Fernando was the drummer.
Cool.
And he didn't even know I was playing it, so that was really funny.
Oh, you just showed up.
I showed up, and he was like, "Oh my God, Owen, you're here!" I'm like, Fernando. And we like hugged several times that day. It was great. Yeah. So it was me and Jeff Fosbender was also there, and
freaking sweet.
Yeah, he was in the band for a while, and he and I didn't know each other very well, but we got very close over the past few years, and yeah, anyway, that's kind of how that started. At the time, I was playing with Ronnie King in the blues band.
Oh yeah.
Which was like a different formation, which they switched just to make it more convenient. I think he switched with like the rhythm section of Corey Waller.
Okay.
And that's really worked out for him. So that kind of disbanded, at least that formation did. And then I just committed to playing with Tank because we had a ton of full band gigs in the books, and
Oh yeah.
I was like, I was ready to make a change, play different places.
He does a really good job of booking shows like around, in different places instead of just, I mean, not that other people don't, but like instead of just picking the same places over and over and over again, it seems like, he knows how to get to a different town and get to a new place. I don't know what he's doing on the booking end, but keep that up. That's good stuff.
He tries to keep it fresh. Over the past, I'd say 2 years, we've went out of state a lot more, been to St. Louis, and we go to Wisconsin pretty often. And
Cool.
Just a side story, dude. When we were in St. Louis, the most GTA thing ever happened. Like, we were on our way to the bar we were playing at, the Honky Tonk, I think it was called. And as we're driving up, this U-Haul, it got stolen by somebody, and there's a full chase happening. So there's cops chasing this U-Haul around the bar that we're playing at. So it was happening for like 10 minutes. So we're watching it, like the U-Haul goes around, almost misses his turn, but it's just a circle around the block. And eventually I guess they got the U-Haul because it was over. So it was just it was awesome.
That's wild.
Yeah, so anyway, what was I even talking about?
That was down in St. Louis?
Yeah, I was down in St. Louis.
Crazy. Yeah, just playing all sorts of shows with Tank was where we were going with this. But yeah, I mean, it's neat when you keep it fresh. And I think that's some of the things that musician for hire inside of us that if you kind of play a lot of music like that, you're like, it is kind of neat playing with different people because they have different sets of shows and different places that they go to. And that was always really cool to me. It's like, oh, sweet. I don't think I've ever played a show in Mason City. Let's play one, or whatever. And it's like all of a sudden you're playing a show in Mason City or whatever, you just name a town or whatever it happens to be. But, it's always kind of fun when you have that ability too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're versatile enough to play with most people, that helps. And I think I've gotten to that point, which was the hardest thing for me. But yeah, I mean,
building your vocabulary big enough to be able to talk to anyone.
That talking to people is a big thing. You could be the best musician ever if you're a bad person or kind of if you're a bad or too awkward to at least put yourself out there, then it's going to be hard to work in this field, I think.
That is, honestly, there's a lot to that. I mean, it's wild because I feel like the youngest people on the podcast have the biggest things to say. I've tried to find a nice way to dance around that for a long time, but there are people that are kind of, let's just say, less than pleasant to be around, and they don't get as many gigs, and it just happens like that. I think probably because they're less than fun to be around.
Yeah,
but if you look at any frontman of any band, Tank Anthony, Jesse Wilson, Scott Kirkhart, Jordan Beam, Jared Benson, they're fun people.
Yeah,
they're fun.
Absolutely,
they stand up there and they're having a good time, and you're having a good time. But you can't just go up there and be like, meh,
yeah, exactly,
I'm not having a good time.
Bad attitude, or if you're just kind of an asshole, it doesn't. It's not
go online and be like, nobody came to the show, y'all suck. There's no way. Why would you do that?
That's a good point. You have to be willing to play some shows that just suck. There's the shows that maybe there's 10 people at, and it's a 4-hour gig, and but you play it anyway because you're still being paid to play music, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I will say, basically nobody on this podcast is ever acts like that because I try to avoid those people. But there are people in certain music scenes in certain towns that do act like that, and it's weird because they kind of find themselves getting weeded out because it's just, I don't know, it's not fun to be around.
Yeah. Some people feed off of the crowd a little too much, or feed off of the ego part of it.
The ego, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
Which man, getting your ego smashed a few times playing music is I think it's good for you, because it's definitely happened to me, like getting shushed playing music before. It's like, holy crap.
The same thing, dude.
You know?
It's easy to go overboard and to do something dumb, but those moments provide a lot of learning, and it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't do this, and maybe just chill out more, or vice versa. There have been times where I've like chilled out too much on a song that needed more.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, just let it go, dude. Just play bass.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, all right.
You're right. I mean, I'm sure that's something weird for you too. Do you feel like when you're playing, like, you know, you take the advice of, like you said, like pick a few spots in a song to do something you want, like maybe 2 or 3, you know, whatever it was. And then the rest of the song just kind of be in the pocket, you know, not like stay out of the, I always say stay out of the way, but not like stay out of the way, you know? But do you ever feel like it's a weird balancing act where you're just like, man, I do want to just go ham right here?
Oh, for sure. I actually do that way too often at like jam nights and stuff.
That's the place to do it, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. In my mind, it's like, okay, this isn't like you should be professional, but it's not like it's a jam night, right? So then I kind of just let it loose doing that, and within reason.
Yeah. Yeah. There's very few things I would say would be off limits at a jam night. And I only say that because, like, if they're done well, like, and then I don't care, you know, but like, I don't want somebody like sweet picking during like Turn the Page by Bob Seger or something, you know, or like, not that anybody would play that or like whatever, but it's just like, I'm throwing out like the craziest example I can think of.
Sometimes it does get like, there is a line, like it still try to make the song sound good.
Yeah.
You know, but if you can overplay while making it sound good, that's a skill in and of itself,
and that's what the jam night's for.
Exactly.
Yeah, just shred, just go for it.
And that's been going really well. I've seen a lot of new kids play there. Love Bomb is blown up. They were on the podcast a little bit ago, and
just housing me the whole episode.
I freaking love those guys, man.
So fun. They're so fun.
They're just like, their confidence in their stage presence, sometimes insulting the audience, but kind of in a fun way.
That's perfect. I love that attitude. And that's hard to pull off.
It is, yeah.
Because like, there's part of me that just wants to like try that to an extent, but you can't give shit to people that don't want you to give shit to them.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, they know it's playful, but it's also like, these guys have confidence. It's great.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. They're the perfect balance of what they need to be.
Absolutely.
So you've played like a bunch of shows with Tank Anthony over the last couple of years. Again, expanding your horizons as to like places you've played, different types of music. I think maybe I've seen you playing guitar at a couple of their shows too. Do you ever like flip flop onto the guitar?
I've played lead guitar with the Tank Anthony band a few times, usually whenever Alex is like double booked. So I'll play guitar instead, and we've had Brad fill in.
Cool.
Which that was really fun. It was a sick gig too. We were playing this like backyard show. I don't even remember what the town is called, and Brad killed it because he's Brad. He's awesome. He has the best bass tone in town. But,
oh, for sure. Yeah. Gene Walker, though. Gene
Walker too.
That one jam, I was just like, damn, this sounds good.
He plays that PJ. I forget if it's a Fender or like a Yamaha. I think it's a Fender. But I played it at the last jam, and it feels and sounds sick.
Yeah, that's wild. That's some good stuff.
Yeah. We've had Nick Earhart fill in on bass.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just such a sweet guy, and really willing to learn, but also like willing to listen, you know, because he's a very like just simple bass player. He's in the pocket and plays the song by the T kind of bass player.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of root notes straight through.
Yeah, exactly.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. That's like
perfect for country music.
That is the perfect bassist. If like most people are just like, that's the bassist we want. Just play the root notes all the way through.
Basically, play the money notes, man.
100%. Yeah, it's money the whole time.
And he did great. So yeah, we've switched it around a couple times.
Fun. That's really cool. Like so like going to jam nights and things like that. I remember in the last episode and in the past you had talked to me about going to jam nights in Cherokee.
Oh yeah.
And is that how you ran into Andy Juhl?
Yeah. So man, that was a long time ago. I think I started going there. So Chris Carr started going there first, and eventually he kind of told me about it because I was like obsessed with jam nights at the time, and I wanted to meet. I just really wanted to meet people, and and whatnot. So he took me to the jam night down there. I think the first one, because they like cycle around a few bars there. It's like the same host, but they
spread it around. That's
town.
An interesting way to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think there's like maybe 3 bars that they do it around Cherokee. This one in particular was at the Bright Side, I think.
Okay.
And it's run by this guy named Brooks Begay, and he's like one of the coolest people I've ever met. He's a great bass player, great guitar player.
Oh, cool.
He can sing his butt off. Like, he's just a cool guy.
Nice.
So yeah, Chris took me down there, and Andy's a close friend of Brooks, so he was there as well. And that's how I met those guys. And eventually, I think it was maybe like 2 years later, it was a little bit after I met those guys, Andy hit me up and wanted to start playing his original music. He wanted to start a band, a live band. So that's kind of how that got started. I became the bass player. We rehearsed. We got Brooks to play guitar. We eventually got Clint Wheelman, who plays with you guys in Three Finger Betty.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
Freaking sweet.
Dude, he's so good. He's just ridiculous at the drums.
Yeah, he's so good. I always said, like, I made an analogy once that, like, Clint's like the seasoning I put on all the food I like. You know, it's just like, yeah, put Clint in your band. Put Clint in your band. Like,
yeah, any band without Clint is just boiled chicken. That's all.
That's hilarious.
You need the spices.
Yes. So, like, I don't know if this episode's going to come out before your show with Andy is at Byron's. I don't have the date for that down. I don't know if you remember it off the top of your head.
I think it's in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so this probably won't come out. It'll come out after that. So, unfortunately, if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah.
It's Andy Juhl. Like, what would you describe the music as? Because I would just call it some sort of like progressive.
That's
psychedelic.
That's pretty much
something
like that. Yeah, progressive rock. He's really into like King Crimson.
Oh, cool.
And Genesis and stuff like that. So, I would say that's what I would categorize it as. Kind of some Rush influence too. Like, I can definitely get away with trying to sound like Geddy Lee and be fine. And but yeah, I mean, it's a really fun band. I really like playing with those guys. We don't play, I would say, extremely often. Maybe once I'd say 3 or 4 times a year. But we're trying to play more together. And so yeah, we'll be at Byron's, which I should probably advertise for. Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I think this episode's going to come out after the show already.
Yeah. So if you didn't go, I am disappointed.
Yeah, I'm disappointed too, because like I remember that was something where like I was like, Byron, we got like Andy Juhl, I think Savario Manchieri, I think that might be how you pronounce his name. I might pronounce his last name wrong.
Really cool name.
Yeah, he's really freaking good. I think I saw him because like I think Chris Carr knew him from playing a couple shows or something, and I was just like, all right, I'll go check this guy out. And he's just like wildly good at. He plays the acoustic guitar, and I remember him playing a lot of notes, and it sounded good. And it's just like, wow, how do you tastefully fold all those notes in there or whatever? But he's just like, yeah, I don't think I've ever really like listened too much of either of these bands. I'm like, dude, you've booked like. It was those two and Matt Woods, like all within like 6 weeks of each other. And I was like, dude, like every other week here, I would go to Byron's and watch a show, you know? And that's like really cool to be able to like be in a band that's getting booked at Byron's. Yeah. I think is a pretty cool feeling too.
It's such a legendary place. I went there once for like a acoustic songwriter thing. And I met Byron. He's just the coolest guy. And he was showing me around the bar, showing me all the like legendary artists that have played there. So the fact that we have a gig booked there is like, oh, I'm going to be playing the same place that these other people have.
Yeah, I mean it's same bar name, different location though, because they did move Byron's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure how he did that or what the.
Yeah, it's just a block over, basically at the old community center.
I'm actually really glad that worked out that way because I know they were having trouble and.
Yeah, I'm glad it all worked out for him for sure. I need to get him on here and talk about that sometime because I mean, like that made like front page of the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, like Byron's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I have a copy of it. I actually found my copy upstairs.
Nice,
which is wild. But yeah, I mean, you've checked a lot of those types of places off the list. I'm sure when you started playing music, it was like it'd be cool if I could play these places, you know. And you've been in enough bands now and played enough shows where it's like, man, you started checking off a lot of places off the list, you know. And that's gotta be like such a fun feeling to kind of go through all the different places and just like look back. Do you ever like? I mean, you're still pretty young, but do you ever like look back and be like, man, I've been playing for like 4 or 5 years now. Like, look at all the stuff I've actually done. Because in the moment, it's like you don't really see how much you're actually doing.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm usually really hard on myself and kind of a negative like self-thinker and most of the time. So it's kind of hard to reflect on things like that. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I actually have done some pretty cool things over these past few years, you know.
So you brought up negative self-thinking. So would an example of that be like when you were talking about like, oh, I watched shows like when I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do on the bass, you know, like shows like some of those first shows at Jam Nights or with Jesse, where it's like, what was I doing? You know, like is that your negative thought process?
Yeah. Especially when I was playing guitar, like when I was playing way more guitar than bass. So like probably last year, I think, I was super hard on myself because like, to a kind of an unhealthy point. Like I got really obsessed with cats like John Mayer and Jeff Beck and these really good guitar players.
Yeah.
So
I'm only obsessed with like the best guitarist ever alive.
Exactly.
You know?
But I was getting more into guitar players as opposed to just bass players, you know.
That's true.
So I'm looking at these really good players and I'm like, man, like why can't I do this right now, you know? And I just got really depressed like for a long time. And it sucked, you know?
Yeah.
Because it affected the way I played. It actually like made me worse, I think.
Oh.
Because I was always thinking of like what would these guys do? What would these guys do? And eventually I finally like broke out of that cycle of thinking and just started to enjoy myself more. It's just like if I, you know, mess this up, whatever, or, you know, just...
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world if I play a wrong note, you know?
Yeah.
And that really helped me, yeah.
This is kind of crazy. So, like, I think about that kind of a concept where it's like you're almost too hard on yourself. So, like, I try and explain to people, like, there's like, how do you know so much trivial stuff? Or how do you, like, remember things? Like, remember, like, what you talked about 100 episodes that was, like, 4 years ago. Like, how do I remember? I don't know. I just do. But I think some of that is that this, like, neurotic mindset of, like, I have to remember these things. Because if I don't, I'm a failure or something. You know, like, it's this weird, internal, like... It's the wrong way to look at it, but it drives this thing that is actually like a good thing. A good thing comes out of it, but I think you like explained it really well when you were just like, it can push you so far that you just get burned out or depressed about something when you're actually like, you're getting so good at this thing and it's not making you happy or something. I don't know how to describe it, but like...
Yeah. Like, you really have to find that fine line with between like being hard on yourself because you don't want to like not acknowledge mistakes.
Bingo. You can't just not care.
Yeah.
Otherwise everything would just always be awesome. You wouldn't have ever learned the guitar.
Yeah, you'll never improve and you'll never progress as a musician or a person in general, you know. Or like if you are too hard on yourself and never give yourself a break or recognize if you let the negative always outweigh the positive in life in general, then your life is just going to suck. Like it's just going to, that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah,
so
you're not going to have any fun.
Exactly. You can't enjoy yourself. It sucks.
That's the whole point of music too. I always thought was just like kind of to have fun. So I always like try to like think, you know, this is kind of crazy. Like I always wanted to have like as much fun as possible playing music, and I do have fun, but then I started like thinking about like, this is again my neurotic brain. I'll be like driving to a show. I'm like, I'm always having fun playing music. I wonder if anyone else is having fun playing music with me.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm the only one having fun. And then I'm like walking around asking people like, do you have fun playing music with me? And it's just like, what kind of you just need to tone it down. You're thinking way too much about all this stuff. Like
it's easy to think like that though. I get that.
Yeah.
When it's something you really want to be good at and you want to spread the joy around, it's easy to overthink and be insecure. But the reality is like, man, if everyone else is having fun, and you are too, that's the whole point.
Yeah, the whole point.
That's the point of playing music.
Yeah. That's crazy. This is so fun too, because I feel like if you go listen to the old episode and listen to this one, like you can see how much you've grown as a person through all your experiences, like either playing music or just living 5 more years of your life, you know, or 4 more years. And that's something I think is like really kind of fun, because like having spent so much time with you then and not spending as much time with you now, but still running into you, it's like fun to be like, oh wow, you're a person, you're a human, you know, you're like, before you were just like a kid, and you know, like, but now you're like, you know, you're out there doing stuff.
Slightly less of a kid.
That's hilarious.
slightly kind of smarter, but not really.
So let's talk about. I want to talk about something else. Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes you made in playing music? Maybe not even playing music, but like after playing, maybe 100-ish shows a year for 3 or 4 or 5 years, or whatever it is. What have you learned? Like, what was something that you were just like, I made this mistake and never made it ever again?
Yeah. Well, a lot of that was like a bass, playing bass, and like that instrument takes so much discipline, in my opinion, because it's very easy. Like, bass is probably the easiest instrument to learn and the hardest one to master, I think.
Yeah.
Because like, you can just learn the foundations of the root notes and it's fine. Then you have the whole thing of like, oh, I want to be technical and skilled and with techniques. And then you have the hardest one, which I think is just the discipline of knowing when to do something and when not to. So I think that was the biggest lesson. I used to be like, I guess I am kind of still like this, but I've gotten less obnoxious, but like volume. Because like I would turn my bass up like pretty loud. And people will not be happy with that. The sound guy, especially. So eventually I learned to dial it back and find a way to make it sound good without blasting bass.
I always thought it was funny. Guitar players always got like a lot of flack for being the loud ones, but like almost every band I've been in, it's the bassist.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I get it. You want to be heard and stuff like that.
You want your low end to just people to feel it in their groin, you know?
And I want to feel it too, but
you have to be like, okay, like that's not how bass is mixed in a professional setting, and you're gonna also probably make people sick. So
yeah, I think about like the only person the bassist is probably going to take away from in that sense is like a very tiny portion of the drum set. There's like parts of the drums where it's like, well, now the kick drum doesn't feel as oomphy because the bass is so bassy or whatever.
Right, exactly. You have to match it so it fits together well, and you can lock in with the drummer more if you have it EQ'd well. I'd say the biggest thing though was just like kind of what I said earlier is when to enter the conversation and when to just lay back, because playing music is kind of like a conversation. It's like, oh, it's your turn to speak now, and then it's my turn to speak now, kind of like what we're doing,
Oh yeah.
So
and some people aren't good at it.
Yeah, some people aren't good at it. Interrupt.
Or maybe we're just not on the same level.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what I think about with like playing music, where it's like, if you don't mesh well at a jam night, doesn't mean the other person's a bad musician. It just means maybe you're not good at talking to each other because you don't have anything in common.
Yeah, no chemistry.
Yeah.
You don't know each other. Like knowing the other person.
Or you have too much in common.
Yeah. Then it's like, oh, God, there's no variety here.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot that goes into that. Similar ways of thinking and sometimes different ways, like you said, which is actually kind of cool. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think too much alike, you're going to try and solo at the same time and play the same things, and there's no variety. But if you're too different, it's like, well, this guy's over here playing bluegrass, and I'm over here playing like Berber Ding. Yeah. It doesn't fit.
I'm playing like what's that band called that does it?
Dragon Force.
Dragon Force.
Yes. That's so crazy. I knew what it was. Fire and Flames.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the prime example. Like whenever I think it's like, dude, if you're trying to sound like Dragon Force in this country song, and I'm just like chilling or something or whatever, that's not going to work very well. Or maybe it would. Maybe it could be cool. I don't know.
There's no rules. I have recently been trying to like listen to music again. It sounds dumb. I don't listen to music. I don't know why.
I don't really listen to music either.
Yeah. What is up with that? I've ran into a lot of musicians that don't listen to music.
Yeah.
I don't know. We just get enough of it because we play it all the time?
Yeah, I kind of have this weird way of thinking about music. Like when I find a band I really like, I kind of like stick to that band for a long time, and then I finally listen to something else. I really like to learn everything about a particular group and then move on. But also, yeah, like you said, it's nice to take a break from music sometimes and just enjoy the silence every now and again.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts and stuff, but I don't know. I've found myself listening to more music lately, and I've been trying to like get into different types of stuff. And it's like the weirder, more progressive type stuff is like kind of what, like Marvin. It's like this is jazz fusion. It's like, I don't know. I know people don't like this term sometimes, but it's like gypsy jazz, or whatever is what they call it. But it's like that type of jazz music fused into some sort of like a little bit of rock and like progressiveness, and it's like, oh, this is something completely on its own. Like recently I found some band and I remember like messaging Jacob Williams and I'm like, you ever heard of these guys? And he's like, yeah. And it's because I'm always the last to hear about something, and he's pretty on the nose with different musicians.
Oh yeah, he's a very smart guy.
But it's like the bassist is like, I think like the main guy in the band, and they play like pop punk type stuff, but it's like 7/8 time and stuff, just
jazzed
like weird,
up to the max.
Yeah, and it's like you're still just like bobbing your head and stank facing and singing, but then after a while you're like, this is wild music, and I don't know. That's the kind of
cool.
stuff.
That's what fusion kind of is. It's just fusing together different music types and making one cool ball of sound. It's awesome.
I want more of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In life, it's important.
Yeah. I mean, there was a band when I went and saw like Pliny, and this is when I can't remember their name. I saw a reel of theirs show up on my Facebook recently, and I was just like, oh, I've seen these guys. These guys are freaking sweet. And it's like they have like trombone and saxophone, like a ska band, but they play like very intensely, like lots like Dragon Force type notes of music, but it's progressive, so it's not 4/4 time.
It's like wild. Yeah.
It's like, what are these guys doing? And they're doing weird stuff where they're like, watch this, and they like tab out and like score out the music, and it's like, why would you play like dotted 30-second notes and stuff, and like, I don't know, they're just weird to like those kind of musicians. I'm always like, this is
the creativity to write that is pretty amazing.
It's insane.
Yeah,
and to get everyone on the same page to do it is even crazier to me.
Yeah, it's that's what I think is really cool about like classical music, actually, which I've kind of gotten into weirdly. Just like this one guy who writes all this music, primarily thinking of like Mozart and like Sebastian Bach and those guys. Who composes all of this music for like 70 different instruments and has to write down all their parts for them to understand, and then has to conduct the whole thing. Like, that's just insane. And that's the same thing for those type of bands too, is like you have to compose for other people. Like you have to write their parts and make it make sense. And that's just you have to be very versatile and open to things. And
especially when it's that intricate, you can't just be like, yeah, just play whatever you feel. And it's like, but if your part is like doodly boop 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 bop ba bop ba, yeah, it's like, how are they gonna like? All right, I'll just squeeze in here a little bit. Like, what? It'd be easier.
Like, what do you do here?
Yeah, it'd be easier if it was scored out and the drummer's like, oh, these are the beats. Okay, I can figure this out pretty easily now. But that comes down to a different level of proficiency. Like we were talking about going to music schools. That's like, I could read sheet music and play this, which is like a different muscle to flex.
Yeah, I'm very bad at that.
I'm not good at it either.
Yeah,
like to the point where like I taught jazz bass to a few people, but I had to like sit down and put a lot of time into it in order to figure out what I was doing.
To even teach. You have to learn.
And it's like, I don't even know if the juice is worth the squeeze on this sometimes, but I had fun learning, so it was neat. But
that's great. You got something out of it.
Yeah. And I don't know. So that's something else we can like kind of go to, like you had a like a benefit that people did for you so you could go to Berklee and do a little tryout type thing. Like, what was that all about?
Yeah. So we had a fundraiser, which, I mean, this was just the sweetest thing ever. It was Jeff Fosbender's idea. We got together to discuss things about making it possible for me to go, because I just didn't have a lot of money, and I had to go in a month, because like that's just the way they schedule their auditions, is like a month after you like submit an application, and I didn't know that because I'm not good at researching things. So
you filled out an application. They're just like, yeah, you're going to be coming in like 26 days.
And then I literally looked up how essential is the audition, and then it said the audition is paramount to enter the school, and I'm like, okay, I have to go now.
You can't just be like, nah, let's go next time.
Yeah, exactly. So we threw this fundraiser, and I mean, it was so cool, and I've always been weird about like talking about myself and doing things for me, I guess, so when someone throws an event for me and I'm like, I'm the person for it, it's like, oh my God, I was like blushing the whole time, but it was so nice to see how this like community came together to help one guy out that kind of grew up in it. And yeah, it was just very, very nice. And I think the music part turned out really well. We had a lot of good musicians there. Most of all, we had Brad there, which is really all that matters.
That's really all that matters.
And
oh, I love it.
Yeah, we raised a good amount of money, and I was able to afford tickets and like a hotel to go down there.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. So you made enough to make it there and back, obviously.
Yeah,
you're here, you're back. So
yeah, well, what I did to get back was unspeakable.
Only had enough for a one-way ticket. So.
We shall not speak of that.
All right. That's hilarious. So how was the audition? Was it fun? Was it what you thought it was going to be, or did you like do enough research where you're like, okay, I get what they're asking of?
Yeah, it was great. I got I hung out in Boston for 2 days before and just explored around and met some students. And then, so the audition, like you go in, they have some students like playing some background music to calm the nerves of the auditionees.
Really?
Yeah. So they had like,
that's actually pretty fun.
It was cool. I didn't even know they did that. But yeah, they had like people playing just some jazz standards. It was like a trio, like piano player, bass player, and, drummer, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, you like go in, they have like seats assigned to you, and they just call your number that's on the seat. And then, you go up. So eventually they called my number. And
how many people were there? Like 10, 100, 50?
There was about there was a lot of people auditioning that day. I would say about 100 people. It was very busy. Yeah.
Whoa. And you know that they're probably doing more auditions tomorrow.
Yeah, the next day and the next day.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty packed in there. So eventually it was my turn. And of course I'm like pretty nervous. I'm like, this is the moment here. So,
is everybody playing a bass, or did people or was there like somebody walking in with a flute, or like what all?
There actually was a flute involved somewhere.
Really? Okay, cool. So it's all different instruments.
Yeah. It's not just bass.
That's wild.
A lot of drummers.
Cool.
So that was cool. But yeah, like you go up and the staff is like super nice there because the staff are just like students, obviously.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like they gave me some warm up time, and then they called me in, and then I had like a prepared piece, so I was playing bass along to a backing track that I chose. Mm-hmm. So I did that. It was kind of scary because like their PA system wasn't working, and they thought it was like my phone, right? So, and obviously we have like limited time for this section, so like we're trying to figure it out. Like my phone isn't working, their phone isn't working, and then they're like, "Oh, we didn't turn up the volume on the PA system." And I'm like, okay, sorry.
There's something so ironic about that. You're going to like the most prestigious music school, probably in this hemisphere, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. And
Well, pretty much, yeah.
And they didn't turn the fader up on the channel on the mic. That's hilarious.
So I was a little annoyed, but it was like, okay, we'll carry on.
That would actually be. I think it'd be pretty disarming. I'd just be like, all right, this is gonna be fun.
So yeah, I start playing the song. It's going great, and they had to stop it like a minute before it was over because we were getting cut on time. So, and it was unfortunate because I was at a part in the song where I was about to do this sick like run.
Oh, nice.
So I was about to do it, and then they're just like, oh, okay.
I guess we're done. Oh man.
Which that was okay. Then they had a few exercises after, like they had some ear training, so they would like play a scale on the piano, and then I would sing it back, and then they would do it again, and then I'd have to play it on bass back to them. Mm-hmm. They had some like chord identification, like seeing if you know the difference between a diminished and augmented and stuff like that, which I did fine on. Then the reading music section, which I was dreading, and I was hoping they wouldn't give it to me, but they did.
Of course.
Did better than I thought I would do.
Good.
I got through like almost the whole page.
Nice.
So
that is such a different muscle
it is.
to flex, and it blows me away that there's dudes that are like, or men and women, everybody. There's people that are playing music that like you think your flautists or your trumpet players or your saxophone or whatever in the big bands in the places. They can just be handed a sheet of music with dots and lines on it and play it perfect start to finish by just looking at the freaking thing. Mind blowing.
It's insane. I don't know how you do it, because I practice so hard like with reading music up to that just to be able to read a few basic notations and rhythms. So just the fact that people do this for a job, playing in studios and playing in like orchestra arrangements is really intimidating to me.
I think it's like having a conversation. We can talk all day normally, but that's like reading out loud from a book.
Yeah, it is.
That's so it's like you're still talking, but you're actually not talking.
Yeah, you're like following something at the same time. It's like you're watching a movie together or something, and you have to, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't think of an analogy for this one, but it's hard, man.
It's not easy.
Like I did a little bit of reading because I went to Iowa Central for a very short amount of time. And it was so humbling. I was so bad. Cause just to defer for a second. And I was so mad that this happened to me. I wanted to play bass in the jazz band because, I explained like, hey, this is the only instrument I play. Like, just let me play bass, please. And so like the day of the first rehearsal came, and Paul Bloomquist, who's the head of the jazz, and he's like the coolest guy in existence.
Yeah, he's super fun.
It's awesome. He comes up to me and I overheard him talking. He's like, yeah, Owen's playing bass. And I'm like, okay. And then Owen comes up, and it's not me, it's another Owen that plays bass. And he's like, oh, hey, I'm Owen. I'm playing bass. What do you play?
That's awesome. I'm Owen, and I play bass.
So, anyway, yeah, stuck to reading music and that too. So,
dude, that's so freaking humbling, because that's like if you could be the world's greatest like farm mechanic ever, but if somebody was just like, here, work on this Ferrari, you're like,
yeah,
I use like a hammer and a punch for a lot of stuff. And this is like fine tuning things, like I can't just like whack something off here and then weld it back together and call it good on this.
Exactly.
Like I could on a farm, like. That's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they put me on guitar too, and I didn't play guitar at the time, so
that's crazy.
So it was just a double, like triple hitter of failure and humbleness, and
that's
cool.
That's wild. And again, it's like you're one of the most proficient at the bass that people that I know, but if it's just it's such a different muscle that's like all these people are actually better at that than I am.
Oh yeah,
that's so weird.
Yeah, and then I dropped out, and I was like, I don't want to do this.
And now you're going back, and you're like, actually, I need to learn.
Yeah, actually, I need to do this. Yeah,
and I need to go to the best school for it.
Yeah.
So like, how does that all work now? You just like wait for them to hit you back up if they want you to swing by?
Well, they actually did hit me up like 2 days ago, and by the time like this comes out, I wanted to make a post about it, but I did get in. Like I got in the Berklee. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
So, yeah,
that's awesome.
I got accepted,
man. That's so fun. I'm glad everyone will know by the time this comes out. But congratulations.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
I am excited, and there's a lot. Like I'm just gonna be honest. Like there's a lot of thinking to do at this point. Because now I actually have like a decision,
Yeah.
It's like before I didn't even know if I was getting in, but
I guess there's no reason to worry about it.
yeah, now I have like, okay, now comes like the money part, and of course that's hard.
Yes.
Student loans and grants and scholarships and all that, which I don't know anything about any of that, and I have friends that know a lot about it. So
yeah, just lean on them.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Do what they tell you.
That's the plan. So we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, apply for everything and then see what happens.
Yeah, that's my mindset right now.
Dude, one of my favorite things about scholarships was like people were just like, apply for scholarships that aren't even for you. Like it's a nursing scholarship. Like yeah, apply for it. It's like if nobody else applies, they might give it to you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, nah. And then I like started like actually, talking to people about that kind of stuff. And somebody, I can't remember what Iowa Central had, like they got a scholarship from something super weird. It was like, it's like a guy that got one from the National Women's Endowment Fund or something like that. And it's like what? It's like, well, nobody applied for it or something.
They gave it to me.
The school was so small, and there's whatever it was, or there's ones that that's just crazy.
That's actually really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll apply for a nursing scholarship.
Or all the ones that like don't get given away. I mean, that's just goofy stuff to look up, because I remember like hearing about that too, where people had like funds for scholarships and they were like, we didn't give it out this year because nobody applied. And it's like, that's wild to me. So, but dude, congrats. That's so
Thanks,
good.
Man.
Yeah, well deserved. Whatever your decision is, I'm very confident it's going to be a good one.
I hope so, man.
Yeah. Like,
and even if it's not if I do commit and go and if I can get like a semester or two out of it, I think that would be just good enough, it's just like the experience of going there would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
No matter how long it would be. There's a lot of questions for me right now, and a lot of things to figure out, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, man. It's so wild to think, like, we're getting close to the end of this, but like, it's fun to think that, like, all of this stuff from just like your grandpa playing music and you wanting to play music with him, to like ding in the basement, to like, just think of all the stuff that's like happened in your life just from playing music, all the fun people you've met, all the places you've gone, all the opportunities that were given to you and are still like out there presenting themselves. It's pretty freaking neat, man.
It is, man. It is really cool. I never would have expected such a cool community in from a place like Fort Dodge. I don't think anyone would expect that moving here.
Or from the outside looking in 20 years ago till now, like, yeah,
even in the area, like, I mean, it's just a very unexpected group of people that, just if you want to get into music in Dodge, there's going to be a very supporting community behind you, and it's good to know that. So
yeah, it's fun knowing there's people like Evan Pratt doing open mic nights that are like bridging the gap between the two. Because jam nights are a nice way to come in and play, but if you're actually, what I was saying, like, not proficient enough to play at a jam night, well, that's what an open mic night's kind of for. It's like, well, let's get up here and see what you got then. Like, you've been sitting in the basement playing an acoustic guitar and singing, like, bring your Bob Dylan over here, or whatever. So, like, I don't know. It's just such a fun community, and it's great that people like you come out of the community, like, you had, good inspirational talent around you to kind of like just usher you towards what you wanted to do, like people like Vino, Alex Trevino, and nice people like Jefferson Fossbender. There's piles of people out there that are like him, but if it wasn't for somebody if it wasn't for him himself, setting the thing up for you, it wouldn't have ever happened, and that's wild. So, dude, congrats.
Thank you, man.
Nobody deserves it more than you. You've worked hard. It's so fun to play music with you, and I just hope that more people can enjoy your music in some capacity, even if it's not around here.
Yeah.
But again, it'll be sad to watch you go for a while if you do go, and if you do come back, everyone's gonna just open their arms and welcome you back again.
Yeah, or maybe I'll just totally go the other way and make the worst music ever.
I'm gonna use my powers for evil.
I join the dark side.
Oh my gosh, how funny would that be to be like? There is probably music out there that people are like, I'm so good at music, I'm gonna make bad music.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah, like, I don't, just purposefully horrible, but it actually, if you use all of the laws of music theory, it fits.
Yeah, that's probably what Taylor Swift did. Yeah, I'm kidding, guys. Don't hurt me.
Swifties are coming after you.
Swifties are coming.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Well, we've gone over an hour. I could probably sit here and talk to you for another hour if I really wanted to, but I'll let you go and finish out your day with something else, man. This is so much fun.
I think that was awesome. We had a good talk.
Dude, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations again. This is fun. Good time.
Thank you, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, Peter.
Hey, there it is. That was a good episode. I love sitting down talking with Owen. I feel like I could talk to him forever, and I feel like the weird analogies my brain makes and kind of like feels about things, he's kind of sort of on the same wavelength with me sometimes, so it's pretty fun. And it's good to hear the story of his Berklee tryout and how it all went, because this is something for people in the community. We just enjoyed having him around so much, so like, good people helping good people do good things, and that's just kind of what it comes down to. And it's cool that he was able to make the tryout, and that he got accepted. So if you guys haven't heard, I'm pretty sure he decided that he's going to go, and that's going to be a fun time. That'll be a great time for him, and it's really exciting. It's just exciting to know that the Fort Dodge music area, there's just so many talented people out there, and it's not just there. There's talented people everywhere, and it's crazy that we've been able to just foster such a relationship to kind of boost those people into doing what they want to do with their lives. And it's just really fun. I don't know, it's just heartwarming and just makes you feel good, I guess. So while you're feeling good, make sure you check out the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association links down below. Thank you very much to them for helping us out with this episode, and thank you very much for Fort Dodge Tea, FDT. T stands for Thoughtful Exchange About the Arts. So that's the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association podcast. It comes out once a month. Be sure to check that out. There are 5 episodes out, and the 6th one that comes out is going to be great, so make sure you check all those out. And while you're clicking on all the links down below, make sure you click all the Audible Farm links and give them the thumbs up and the subscribe and the like, and leave a comment wherever you're at, and kind of let me know what you think about the podcast and or the episode, or just the really fun things you can do with all the information down below and all of those Audible Farm links is click the share button and let somebody know, or just tell somebody like, hey, this Audible Farm episode was fun, you should check it out, and then just send them the link and see what they do. Maybe you got something to talk about. This episode was really fun. Thanks again to Owen, and thank you guys for listening. audiblefarm.com. Peace.